just letting you know, we'll be recording the call. I'd like to send it out to other people who might have the same questions as yourself. So this session is all to do with interview preparation and how to excel at interviews. Has anybody got an interview coming up shortly? Just out of curiosity, if you want to just type in the chat box, or if you want to just shout out, it's more than okay. Anybody willing to be brave enough? Oh God, we're shy. Okay. Well, I'm sure that you've all been to an interview before. Okay. So what we're trying to do is, the higher up the corporate ladder that you go, the more of a gamble in some senses an interview is. Okay. So just before we begin, my name's Susan. I'm a global career coach. I help people ultimately to get hired. That's what I've been doing for a very long time now. And I believe that most people approach interviews maybe in the wrong way. And what I want to kind of get across to everybody is that if you had potentially, I don't know, a salary of 60k, 100k, for example, are you, somebody's writing in chat. Hi. Okay, so yeah, if you've got a question, by all means, just ask. So what I was basically saying is that you need to really be thinking in terms of, okay, if you've got this salary, or you're potentially got a salary there, that's a lot of money. The higher up the corporate ladder that you climb, that interview is definitely something that you want to be making sure that you are the one that ultimately gets hired. So the way that I look at this is that you need to be thinking about how do you kind of showcase that you're ultimately the best person for this role. So I'm just letting more people in, so apologise that I keep on stopping and starting. This session is all to do with how to excel at interviews. My background is a global career coach, so I help people ultimately to get hired. And the way that I believe interviews need to be approached is maybe different from some, okay? So the way that I like to think about it is that an interview is your way to say that I'm ultimately the best at what I do, and you are competing with other people. However, most people don't recognise or don't put enough work into it for that interview preparation. And one of the things that I really think is really important is, if a salary is worth 30k, 60k, 100k, why aren't you practicing? Why aren't you spending money firstly on doing a mock interview, which might be £200 worth of your money? But if you got that job, you could be earning 60k. So I like to make it very clear to you that, the higher up the corporate ladder that you are going for, the less of those jobs are available. And to me, it ultimately makes sense. And yes, I am biased, I'm not going to lie to you. But the ones that really know how to prepare for that particular role, and know how to approach that interview, are the ones that are likely to get hired. So getting some professional help straight away is definitely worth it if you are going up that corporate ladder, because you're competing with other people at the same level as you. And I will be honest, higher up the corporate ladder, it's those people that tend to spend money on this type of stuff. So you've got to work out, am I just going to be average? Or am I going to take that next leap up? Now, my mind in terms of careers and interviews, okay, is that actually you want to be known before the interview. Now that's a different concept altogether. So let me make this clear what I'm trying to say to you. Imagine it where they've already heard of your name before. Imagine it where they already know that, I've heard about this guy, I've heard about this woman before, and it's good. Yeah, it's a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. And I know that they've done some good work in different organisations. So I'm talking about building your brand is actually a really strategic move that you could make that can not only help you to get to interview, but also help you to get hired, you know, when you do get to that stage, because they already feel that they know you. So how do you actually start building your brand? Okay, well, that's something that you probably need to go and speak to somebody like a career coach, that's like me, where you're looking at, okay, you know, the reality is most people, and I'll be very clear about this, most people are very, very good in the four walls of the company that they work in. Think about what I'm saying for a second, because it's really true. Most people do a fantastic job within the four walls of that company. The problem is that is not kind of translated outside of those four walls, or not enough where you get people saying, hey, can you come and work for us? So just to give you an example, because I do like to practice what I preach, is, you might tell from my accent, particularly if you're from the UK, is that my background, yeah, somebody's laughing there. So I'm from Liverpool, okay? So I'm from Liverpool, shaking his head, yeah. So there we go, poor little me travels all the way to London, yeah, doesn't know a soul. I'm set in a nice sea now, yeah. And even I thought, poor little me, I'm going to London, yeah. And I can remember I got there, and what it was is my partner at the time, he's now my husband, it's not a total sad story, but he got the job, and we moved, that's why we moved to, he was living in Cambridge, he moved to London, and then I also kind of followed. I didn't have that job, right? So what that meant is that I was kind of in a little dodgy situation in some senses. So when I did actually get to London, I did start kind of reaching out to people. And I did, before I got to London, I did manage to get a contract with a certain organisation, but it wasn't brilliant. I'm going to be very honest with you, it's a zero contract type of job, which is not good enough. But what had happened is, because I had started to build my brand when I was in the UK, when I was in Liverpool, and I was talking about careers all the time to anybody that would listen, yeah, what happened is people had started to know, people had knew my name. They didn't know who it was, but they did know my name in that career space circle. So much so that I was actually offered the job, not the interview, yeah. And they were offered this job where I was able to negotiate a 4-day week. And I was also going into the cabinet office talking about careers. Okay, that was part of my new role. And I'd only got that job because I'd started to build my name. And I was literally just kind of kept on talking. This is what we should be doing if you work in this industry, or, you know, this is what I think, and I'm giving my opinion. And that helped me land a job without an interview. And you know that's not always going to happen, okay? But I want to express to you that if you still build your brand and you still don't go to interview, the likelihood is that they feel that they know you, and you're definitely in a competitive advantage compared to somebody that they've never heard of before. But let's bring this down for 1 second, but I will make people laugh, and I will give you the complete story. I did actually hate that job. So that job that I got, I actually hated it. So on paper, I'm going to make you laugh now. On paper, it was fantastic. Hey, I go into the cabinet office. But hey, I absolutely hate it, right? And so I can remember writing, it was like a Dear John letter, yeah, to my boyfriend, going, please, let me leave this job. I absolutely hate it. I'm no longer sleeping. And don't you think it's a little bit ironic that a career coach absolutely hates a job? Now, luckily enough, he was quite understanding, and he let me leave that role, because ultimately what I wanted to do was work for myself, which is why I'm still talking to you people even now. But it was a big risk that I took at that time. But he was very sweet. He said, okay, we celebrate you having no job by going out for a cocktail the next day. And so on Monday, you can give in your notice. And that's a true story. That is exactly what I did do. But what I realised is that building your brand is probably one of the cleverest moves that you can make, and it does help you to get that job a lot quicker. Well, one of the other things that you can also be doing, okay, you're bringing it back to basics, is helping people to feel that they know you before the interview. So one thing I'm going to suggest to people is that I'm sure that you get an email. Yeah, you all will probably get an email or even a letter. Imagine that, a letter. And in that letter, it will tell you who is going to be interviewing you. My advice is that you want to be, and by the way, I'm going to caution people on doing this, but my advice is that you want to hunt those people on LinkedIn. You've ultimately got their name and you want to check them out on LinkedIn. And yes, you want to be visible. You want them to know that you have checked them out. Okay, does that make sense? You want them to know that you have looked at their profile. You don't want to be anonymous. Yeah, that's defeating the purpose. However, I'm going to add a bit of caution here. If you are kind of wanting to, to view their profile, then one of the things that you need to be doing is making sure your own profile is absolutely the best it can be. And this is a mistake that most people make. Most people's profiles are simply average. So let me come back to this again. The higher up the corporate ladder that you travel, the better this stuff has got to be, okay? I've got to make that particularly clear. So if you've got an average profile and you think, oh, it's okay, yeah? I would not suggest checking out their profile until you've improved your own profile first. And again, you need to be thinking about it from the point of view of that company that you want to be attracting. So the reason why you want to visit their profile, just to be very clear, is that you want them to check out your profile. That's why we're doing this. But also it's information for you for when you book the interview. So to me, it's kind of like a win-win. So to me, this is a really clever way for them to get more information about you. So it's quite a strategic move, yeah, to me. But it's only good if the LinkedIn profile is good. But if it's not, yeah, then it's not going to help you to go, you want it to be, your LinkedIn profile needs to be, make it crystal clear, it needs to be going, wow, this guy, this girl understands, the problems that we've got, and this person is able to be the solution to some of the issues that we've got here. It needs to be that wow factor, yeah? And if it's not that wow factor, then don't bother doing what I'm saying. The other thing that you could also be doing, and which I'd say that everybody needs to be doing, is that particularly if you are job hunting, yeah, the likelihood is that you might, people will email you, and say, okay, they might email you and say, there's an interview on this date. For whatever reason, we hope, well, that's what they should be doing. And again, what you also want to be doing is obviously saying thank you to that email and responding saying, yes, I can make it. But again, you need to be at the end of that email, which should be called what I call an email signature, which has a call to action. So again, you've got this opportunity to say, connect with me on LinkedIn. You want to drive people to your LinkedIn profile. Again, the higher up the corporate ladder that you go, these are definitely some of the strategies that you definitely want to be employing, because those jobs do not come around every single day. So you are driving people to this LinkedIn profile because it's excellent, and it's also helping them to get a better idea of who you are and what you do before the interview actually happens. So that's a clever thing to do. Let me just go, right, okay. Email signature of mentions. Right, when you get to interview, I mean, one of the things that I find is when I do mock interviews, for example, with clients, what we're looking for is, in some senses, your ability to answer the question, yeah, because you do get marked on those questions, yeah. But one of the things that I like to do is show you how you can actually turn the whole interview around to your advantage. But one of the things that I would stress is you know, do this from home. You know, look at, okay, you know, some of the common questions that I could be asked. Make sure you prepare. Make sure that you're able to not read it like this, okay, that it comes out naturally. And again, I'm going to say something, that storytelling is a real key part of that interview process. That's what you also want to be thinking about as well. Now, I'm going to talk about it from the point of view of the hiring manager, okay? So I don't know if anybody's been on the other end of you know, where they've been actually interviewing people. But if you've interviewed maybe 6 people in a day, I would imagine that you know how tiring that can be. And I'm going to be really, yeah. And I would also imagine that they start blaring into one. Who was that person again? Yeah, that type of feeling? Yeah? Okay, got people nodding there. That's the reality, okay? So you need to recognize, even if you do a fantastic job at interview, they're still human beings, right? So one of the things that I tell people to do is never ever assume that just because, you know, they've picked you for interview, that they remember what's on your CV or your application form. So you always must go in with the kind of, with the outlook that they have never read anything about you in the past. That's what I always advise clients. You go into an interview where they know nothing about you. You're not making any assumptions that I've already sent that to them, they know this. Never make that, because the reality is that they could have chosen you 6 weeks ago, and then 6 weeks later the interview happens. In the morning, yeah, they get to work and they've only really got 5 minutes to look at the notes, yeah, before your interview. That type of thing does happen. Okay, come back to what I was also trying to emphasize as well, is that the reality is that these people are busy. This is not their day job to interview you. They've still got the missus at home screaming at them, go and get a bottle of milk. Maybe with your, I don't know, your mask on these days, okay? So what you need to be thinking about is, okay, the reality is if people are interviewing maybe 6 people in a day, they're not necessarily going to remember who I am and what I do. So it's your job to think about, how can I help that individual remember who I am and what I do? So one of the things that I like to do, and I'm just going to move this over here, is I actually call this the Interview Toolkit, okay? To be honest with you, you know, these are some of the things that you want to be thinking about, and this does help people kind of remember you. So what you don't want to have, let's be realistic. They at some point they're going to say, okay, there's 6 people, 8 people, whatever, we're going to shortlist. They do that shortlist. A couple of weeks later, they might say, okay, we're going to interview you. It could be, if you're working in education, they might make that decision straight away. This is the person that we want. The likelihood, though, if you don't work in education, particularly in the UK, they won't make that decision in that day. And it might be a couple of days later before they decide either on who gets shortlisted to the next round or who gets that job. So a lot of time has gone past, and what we don't want to do is help them to forget who you are. So one of the things that I actually recommend people do is you can, yeah, help people remember by actually bringing and showing people, hey, I've really thought about this role. I've actually thought about how I can help you, and I've actually prepared something for you as well. So these 2 documents, one is called What I Can Offer Your Company from Day One. Looks pretty pretty. It's this document, and it's in loads of different colours, A4 US sizes. Okay, I thought it was actually going to another page actually, but what it's doing is it's actually showing, okay, you know, this is, you're looking at it from a very clear point of view, your name, the name of the job yeah, the job title that you're going for goes underneath your name. And what you're doing is completing this document, which is called What I Can Offer Your Company from Day One. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't really be going for the job, okay? If you don't know what you can offer this company, then there's something wrong with the job that you're going for. Not to be rude, but just to be truthful. Yeah. What I say is that absolutely everyone should be able to use this type of document, because if you can't answer it, you shouldn't be going for it. I have known people that have used a document like this and they have used it to get to interview. So, you know, when you go to for example, a recruiter, you know, like maybe you apply for a job in a job site and they say to you, can you upload your CV? Yeah? You upload your CV or your resume if you're from America. You do that. And then they ask, would you like to upload anything else? That document, What I Can Offer Your Company from Day One, is a very clever document that you can use. And I've known that clients have actually used it to get them to interview. So there's two ways that you can use that document. And ultimately, that needs, and I believe that everybody can get this document in an interview, okay? So most people say to me, well, okay, if I use this document, how do I actually get them to take it from me, okay? So everybody knows at the end of the interview, 99.9%, they will say to you, have you got any questions? And one of your questions will be, well, it's not a question as such, but I do feel that I'm the right person for this role. I would love to provide you with bang. And if you're in a group interview, you bring, you know, 4 or 5 copies, yeah? I'd love to give you this copy, yeah? And I just want to focus on maybe 2 of these points. Here you go. That's a very clever way of making sure that you're remembered at interview. It's a very clever way to get that document left at interview by doing it that way. Well, the 30-day plan, it's quite a cute document as well, okay? So it looks similar to this. So this works really well if you've been in this industry before. Okay, so again, higher up the corporate ladder, this is probably not going to be too complicated, but it would be maybe pretty difficult maybe for a graduate to be able to do this because they wouldn't know what their core responsibilities would be, yeah, what I'm going to do in the next 30 days. But if you've had the first interview and it goes to a second interview, I would say that you should be able to complete something like this. And if you've been in this job or this type of industry and you're going to the same type of role, it shouldn't be too complicated to complete this type of document either. So this document is really clever. It's in, both of these documents are in Microsoft Word. And so it's easy to amend and change. And this is something, again, that you can take with you to the interview and say, okay, yeah, same approach that I've just talked about. You know, it could be something, if you don't get it, if they don't ask you, if you don't feel that you get that opportunity to bring it up during the interview, you can definitely bring this up again to the interview, okay? So this document, in the same way that it said, if they ask you, if you've got any questions, again, you might say, don't have a question as such, but I think that I'm the right person for this role and this is why, yeah? And again, you bring numerous copies because you never know how many people are going to be in the interview. So this document is pretty simple, believe it or not, but it's really well thought out and it makes people think. So these documents are now left with the employer. And so, yeah, what are they going to say? Oh yeah, I remember that girl. Yeah. Or that lady. Remember her, she's the one that's left with those documents, didn't she? And you have now taken yourself from average to the next level. And if your salary, yeah, whatever your salary is, whether it's 30,000, 60,000, 100,000, 200,000, that's the type of thing that you really want to be thinking about. Yeah, because you need to go over and beyond. okay? You really need to be thinking of it in this way. So these documents are very clever documents that help you get remembered, but in a positive way. Has anybody got any questions? I don't know if anybody's speaking and I just can't hear you.
I've got a question.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Fantastic. Hello, Susan. Thank you for doing this, first of all.
No.
Just wanted to quickly ask a question with regards to the what I can offer your company from day one. As you mentioned, you can upload additional documents to applications.
Yeah.
Normally, I would go about putting a covering letter there, stating what my ambitions are and kind of what my skill set is in a bit more depth, giving them a few more examples and what have you. I've never really put together what I can offer your company from a day one per se, but it's a very similar thing. Would you replace a covering letter with this document, or would you kind of mash them together in some way, or tailor it depending on the role?
It could be, well, what you're saying, even then, you know, I think it's firstly well done of actually uploading the cover letter. Most people wouldn't do that. Yeah, so well done. It's a good strategy. It's really your choice. If you think, okay, you know, this is something that I can do. I can upload it, or it's given me another opportunity. What this document is really focused on is you know, what I can offer your company. It's trying to give real examples of what we've done in the past. It sounds pretty similar to what the cover letter is, but maybe it's being a little bit more direct. It's like, you know, it's like 4 or 5 bullet points. Yeah, here you go. Kind of in your face. And I think visually it looks the part. So I'm a big believer in things need to look attractive or different to get people's attention. Yeah. So it's really your call on how you want to do it. There is no right and wrong. Maybe you do it the way that you're doing it in the past. And then if you get to interview, that could be the slant that you take. Yeah. You utilize that document at the interview process. And it will, you know, it definitely helps. Some people question me about it, and I'm like, seriously, nobody's doing this. It's like, just do it and see. Yeah. It's not going to harm, you know, and I've just gave you the real easy way in. They will ask you that question. Do you have any questions? They will ask that.
Yeah, one example I've got, and another question off the back of this, is last Thursday I did actually have an interview, and one of the areas that they asked me what I would be able to do. Now, as part of my covering letter, I did have 4 or 5 bullet points. They were my key achievements of what I've done in previous roles within talent acquisition and management. And then it came to what would your 30 days look like within the organisation?
Well done. Yes, they do offer
that. They asked that question, and I didn't have an answer for it. And when I actually got my feedback, they came to me and stated my enthusiasm was there, my dedication was there. It was very clear I've got the stakeholder management side, but from a strategy point of view, what I was going to do when I hit the ground on day 1 through to the day 30 plan, it wasn't as strong as some of the other candidates that were in there. So I think definitely the 30-day one is something I would be introducing, and probably that would be at the interview stage, so it's fresh in their mind.
Yeah, I think that, and it looks really professional. By the way, you just highlighted something. That document, right, can also be used after the interview. I know that sounds crazy, but bear with me. So you get the job now, yeah? Now, the reality is, again, the higher up the ladder that you go, or even, you're always a question mark. Did we pick the right person? They're not going to say that to you, but you're thinking it. Yeah? Did we hire the right person? So if you want to give yourself an easy life, this document can also be utilised after the interview, because you just changed the 3 to a 6, the 3 to a 9. It's Microsoft Word, yeah? And what you do is you go, you know, you put your ideas down, you know, following the interview, blah, blah, blah. These are what I think maybe the next 30 days should be. Obviously, I maybe gave you an interview. It'd be good to maybe if we could have a meeting to catch up, blah, 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 to confirm that this is what we're happy with. And then the clever move would be is to do this again for the next 2 months. And this document, as I said, Microsoft Word, you're literally changing it to 3. You know, the 30 days to 60 days, to 90 days. And there you go. So in your manager's eye, you've got somebody that actually self-manages. That's what every manager wants. Yeah, they don't want to have to hold your hand all the way through. They would love it if you are able to help them, and this document helps them to also go, actually, maybe I'd like you to focus on more of this. Yeah, but you've actually been proactive and you've taken the time to create something like that, and that does go far. So that's another way you could use it. Hope that gives you some, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think somebody's written one in the chat if you haven't spotted that.
Oh, right, I didn't. Well done, you. Super. Right, okay. Remember to talk about phone and Skype interviews, okay? What would be smooth way to do this during a virtual interview? God, yeah, that's clever. Okay, so one of the things, okay, if you're doing particularly a Skype interview, phone interview, obviously, you know, dress code is the same, I would say. Make sure the back of the room, yeah, and I've got to say this, yeah, there isn't like a pile of washing or isn't in a room that you think, wow, this woman or guy lives in a bin type thing. I've got to say that, it does happen. The obvious stuff, yeah? I'm just going to say the obvious stuff that you want to be thinking. You also need to practice. You need to practice. So again, working with somebody, yes, I am going to say me, but working with somebody, but you can find anybody, you just need to Google somebody. But yes, going to practice this, where you're actually on a call, where you're setting yourself up on an interview. And, you know, even if you don't work with somebody, at least make sure that you understand the technology. Yeah? It is so annoying when people don't know how to switch the volume on. It's so annoying when people don't know how to share the screen. Yeah? So, you know, these are the things that you want to be making sure in advance. So working with somebody, making sure that you're going through, again, this mock interview process applies the same way, even if it's online. Okay, breaking the ice in a video conference. That's a good one, okay? I think really it should be them breaking the ice with you. Yeah, they might not do, but it's actually, they should be taking the lead on that. Okay, so things like, you know, what's the weather like where you are? If it's like, you know, you're not in the same, for example, area, it could be something as simple as that. It could be, okay, you know, I don't know, something simple like, you know, depends on how old you are, God, you know, how you finding, you know, the lockdown at the moment, you're starting to get, is starting to send you stir crazy, yeah? You can think about any questions, but ultimately they should be trained. I'm not saying they will be, but they should be the ones that put you at ease, not the other way around. Another thing that you want to be thinking about is mannerisms. So one of the things that I'm totally guilty of is arms moving around. Okay, so if I was in an interview and I was doing this really formally, then one of the things that I have to do is I actually have to hold my hands and put them like this. So being aware of what is your own mannerisms, or getting, again, that's why it's sometimes useful, somebody to do a mock interview with you just to help show you, okay, this is your thing, this is what you do, is actually quite useful as well. As for the documents, I would, you know, again, documents are, you know, virtually it's harder. I would hope that you would have an email, okay? So you'd have an email of at least that person, you would be, you know, that would be the first thing that I would say is I would imagine that if you're having an interview with somebody, you might have their email, or at the least you might be able to find them on LinkedIn. And the reason why is because you want to, again, what you could be doing is showing them, just as I've done, sharing the screen, showing you these documents online. You could say, you know, make a joke of it, you know, if we weren't in, you know, in the corona situation as we are, I would be individually handing one of these out for each one of you, yeah? As I can't do it, this is the next best thing, and I will send you a copy, you know, via email or I'll send a copy to you via LinkedIn, for example. Okay, you want them to have something, so that's quite good. You mentioned before personal selling point, might that be seen as bragging? Can you give an example? I think you just need to practice interview technique. You know, if you go to, you know, just Google it. What common questions? I mean, the one that you asked, you know, they said to you, what would you do in the first 30 days? Yeah, that is a common question that you could be asked. But it's difficult to be able to to cater for every question. Yeah. But just to clarify, if you can't answer the question, or you are unsure, it's totally fine to say to them, don't really understand the question, can you rephrase it for me? Or can you just give me a minute? Yeah, I need to think about what you are asking me. It is totally fine to say those things at interview, to give you time to be able to answer the question. Yeah, that they're wanting, that they're looking for. You don't need to immediately go, here it is, and ramble on. Yeah. Any other points? It's been very good. I love the questions. I'm sure other people, when they see the video, are going to find it useful as well.
Susan, can I just jump in very quickly to help support Mark Henry's question? On your tip from an icebreaker point of view, especially with video conferencing, from a TA manager aspect and the way that we have done that within our teams before, it should always be led by the actual hiring manager, as Susan said, who should always do that. Now, I've unfortunately sat on a few before where I've been sitting there quiet and the hiring manager has been very awkward, and it hasn't actually gone as smooth as it potentially should do. But if that is the instance and that is the case, and you're sitting there with a very awkward manager who's potentially new to interviews themselves, what have you, is to actually just break the ice by introducing 2 points. And I always suggest 2 points about yourself. So one of those could be like on my recent presentation for a role I went for, one of mine is that I want to cycle and have a cycle holiday as a personal objective across Britain. That's not for charity or any other reason other than just because I love cycling. I've got my bike, and it'd be nice just to, you know, travel 30-40 miles, stop off somewhere for a day or two, travel a bit further up, and just do a bit of that. That then gives them something to go on about myself. And then from a professional point of view, I've got the other option, which is that I'm so far in my career now. I've changed careers before into recruitment and talent acquisition 6 years ago. And my next stage is, you know, hopefully in 10 years' time, this is where I'd like to be. And then they can start asking you questions about how you got there or how you expect to get there. And that's when you can then start presenting and selling yourself into the interview and breaking the ice in a little bit more detail. So there's 2 options there you can use, Mark Henry, which when I've seen candidates do that for when I've been interviewing them, they're the ones that stood out for me and I've taken on board and gone, yeah, I'm going to use that myself. So that just gives you
I like it. Yeah, cool advice. Yeah. So hopefully that's helped. Yeah, if anybody likes what we've talked and wants to do kind of like a mock interview individually, obviously I do charge for that, but just get in touch. My email is susanbeck@live.co.uk. These documents are actually on my website, okay? So if you did want to kind of go there, I'm going to send this in an email. I'm not trying to, but they are there. So you just go to the executive job search on the shop. I'm just showing where I got it, and it's in the tools and templates section, and you can get them from that section there. So you just go into the linkedinsuccessacademy.com. But those documents, you're going to just get, you know, if you've got another 40 odd years, yeah, you're going to get plenty use of them, yeah. Good luck. Yeah, it's not like a one, you know, just a one job thing. This is something that you can reuse and reuse. And they're just core templates, but they give a framework, and I think that's the important thing. It's just like, okay, this is what Susan said, I just need to include it here. Yeah, so I just try and make it as Muppet-proof as humanly possible. But yeah, another thing that I was saying to people is, you know, really do think about LinkedIn. I mean, that is my thing. They do say that you can get jobs from LinkedIn, but you do need to be going over and beyond the average LinkedIn profile. Yeah. So has anybody got any other questions? Just want to make sure that we've covered everything, but it's been, I love it when it's interactive. So thank you for speaking to me. I don't ask for much. I love it when people speak to me, and I have these sessions on every Thursday. Later on in an hour's time, actually less, 15 minutes time, I'm going to be doing a session for the freelancers, which is actually probably just as relevant. It's to do with LinkedIn. So if you think, okay, that could be useful, then jump on that call. It's in 3 o'clock. No, it's 3 o'clock UK time. So if you want to jump on that session, you're more than welcome. But thank you so much, and I will send an email out with everything. I think that's it. If I missed any other questions, no, I think we've done it. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.